So obviously the title is not true. But for this night, Anthony Davis can be the best Laker of all time. And to be fair, he's only 27. He's got probably 7 to 10 years left. He could end up very high on the all-time Laker list and all that. The buzzer beater, if that does not go in, then they lose. But now it's a 2-0 series. Lakers looking much better. This was the type of game where if Denver does not win, it looks really difficult for them to win the series. Granted, they've had a whole bunch of those, but the Lakers are better than any of the teams Denver's had so far. So that was a pretty massive shot. And this is why you trade for Anthony Davis. I mean, we have these conversations about did they give up too much for him? And I mean, look, Ingram, Lonzo, Josh Hart, whatever the hell else, all the draft picks. That's why you do it, man. That's why you do it. It wasn't just the buzzer beater either. I think he had like 10 straight points in the fourth quarter. Granted, I only remember the three, and then I remember the floater thing that he had. And it was right in the middle of a Nuggets run, but it's a pretty obvious thing to say. But sometimes we get so caught up in the whole, like I just said, is this enough? And that was a conversation. And I'm pretty sure at some point I was on the side of like, maybe the Lakers are giving up too much here. They didn't give up too much. It's Anthony Davis. He's the, 7th, 6th best player in the NBA or whatever. A little higher this season if you want to take out guys who are injured. And that's what happens, man. Sometimes the Lakers offense, it slowed down. It looked a little rough there at times. But it's all good because Anthony Davis is just, he's Anthony Davis. And he also made me look a little bad on Twitter. Not that I've ever really been anti-Anthony Davis. Look, I picked the Lakers to win the thing when the whole season started 9 years ago. So, I've clearly been as close to a Lakers fan as I can be, I guess. But I was saying on Twitter, well, hey, Jokic has scored an AD a couple times here. We clowned Gobert for this. Are we not going to clown Anthony Davis? Nope, we're not doing any of that because he just made probably the shot of the series, really. Do we talk about the X's and O's of this at all? Maybe, but let's dive into this. Like, how did the Nuggets slow down Anthony Davis at all? One thing I didn't think about that much going into this was the idea of Jokic defending AD in the post. Because it didn't happen too much. Jokic was always on the Lakers' other big guy. Dwight was the main dude I was watching. I will be honest, I wasn't paying a whole lot of attention to this game until about 7 minutes left to go in the fourth because I was, football and whatever else. But in that stretch of time, there were some possessions where Jokic was on AD, like one in particular that I remember. And in that specific moment, I was like, well, maybe this would be kind of tough for AD to get a shot over him. But then he just busted out some move that only a shooting guard could do, and he had like a reverse layup on him. So, yeah, it's Anthony Davis for you. I don't know if there's an option. No, there isn't. There is no option for AD. I had a tweet, because apparently this is just me reference my Twitter a million times video. I think it was yesterday where I was like, we really shouldn't even bother with the whole can they slow down LeBron thing anymore. We shouldn't bother with it with Anthony Davis either. What would be the closest thing to the Nuggets having a game plan for AD? I don't know, man. Zone defense around him. Hope the Lakers don't cut. And dare him to make a shot. But they're just going in. Maybe your only other option is to try to get away with fouls on him. Like sometimes the refs will be a little more willing to let you be physical. I'm, of course, not suggesting you hit a guy or anything, of course. But, a little extra shoulder bump or something you might be able to get away with. Because besides that, I don't know, man. Just some of the baskets he had that I mentioned. There was the three, and we can talk about the mid-range and why he's making those all the time. There's beating Jokic off the dribble. There was the runner he had in the middle of the Nuggets run, and he kind of calmed things down for a moment there. I don't know what you do. Got no clue. If I'm thinking about guys in the NBA who are big enough and strong enough and fast enough to deal with AD, Bam might be like the one guy. Perhaps Ben Simmons, because Ben is, I think he's listed at 6'10", but he's like 7 feet tall, so maybe. But as for the Nuggets, I don't know, man. AD finished with 30-something on the night, and he was impossible to stop in the second half. And he had 37 in the blowout of Game 1, so if you can think of an AD strategy for Denver, I'd like to hear it, because you could be like, well, Millsap could do a good job of not letting him get to the spot. Okay, cool. He's had like over 60 points in 2 games. Jeremy Grant doesn't have it. Jokic doesn't have the speed. They just don't have a guy for him. And I don't think they're good enough as a team to deal with him. If we think about the other X's and O's, I mean, Jokic, he eventually had a Jokic game. What was it, 11 straight points or whatever? He had the super weird offensive rebound. He had the pick and pop 3 late. He had the post up on AD. I mean, the thing is, I feel like the Lakers are so much better than Denver, or LeBron and AD are just so good that Jokic can have a game like this and the Lakers will still win the series. But that being said, I mean, for one, they were fortunate that Jokic didn't make a couple of threes. Like, he was 1 for 4. If he's 2 for 4, then that's obviously better. Besides that, I mean, the Lakers are just not doing anything super dumb on Jokic, I guess. They're not doubling him and making it really easy for everybody else. I think Dwight was doing an okay enough job in the post. But even so, Jokic, he's still good. I mean, he still had a hook shot over Dwight from what I remember as well. So, I mean, sometimes you're just going to do everything right and he's going to score anyway. If I do want to talk about LeBron for a bit, and again, I mainly just saw the last 7 minutes. The Lakers did have some stretches where the offense was looking a little slow. Sometimes LeBron was trying to get the Jokic switch, and he was using Dwight to do it, which probably not the best thing because that means Anthony Davis is now standing on the elbow. But Jokic did a good job of not getting into the switch. I think part of the reason he was able to do that is because you're not really scared of Dwight outside of right in front of the rim, so you're kind of willing to leave him open for a second to allow, I think it was Jeremy Grant, to get back to LeBron without LeBron getting like a leeway of space to drive to the basket. So Denver did an okay job on those. Whether they can keep being successful on that, I don't know. I feel like LeBron had a couple opportunities to switch onto Jamal Murray. One, he did late, and then the Nuggets brought a couple guys, and then that resulted in the ball eventually ending up out of bounds, and that was a gift for the Lakers because then AD hit the shot. So, for what that's worth, I don't know. I mean, the strategy there was clearly dare some shooter, and actually Caruso ended up with an open 3, that's right, and then it became an offensive rebound, went out of bounds. So their strategy there was basically don't allow LeBron to beat us at the rim. Now, even then, can LeBron still not just get fouled? I feel like he can, you know? Like, even if there's 2 or 3 dudes in front of him, if he just simply draws the contact, he can probably get to the line. Now, another thing I want to talk about with the Lakers offense down the stretch there was one possession where I think it was just AD in the game, no other big, and Jokic was on AD, and they did not run a LeBron-AD pick and roll. And I don't think they got a good shot off of whatever they attempted to do. I feel like if that's ever available, you just got to go to it immediately. Because for that specific one, I don't think the Nuggets are going to have the luxury of being able to shuffle around to get the initial LeBron defender back to him, because you can't ignore Anthony Davis, obviously, the way you can Dwight. So that could be something to look for Game 3, but it's also 2-0. Lakers blew them out in Game 1. And they kind of stole this one here. So there's a chance that any X's and O's and getting real deep into it, it might not matter at this point. I mean, I predicted this to go 6 games, and if my prediction, I mean, I still picked the Lakers, of course, but if my prediction was going to hold true, then the Nuggets would have probably had to have won this game. So I think now we're looking at probably a 4 or 5 game series. But even so, if there was any team that was going to do it, it'd be Denver, because they've done it twice already. Is there anything to be said about Jamal Murray through 2 games? He did have like a couple plays where he got by AD. That was kind of impressive. He was like hunting him in the switch. Through 2 games, Jamal Murray's got about 23 points, which I would say is pretty good. I don't know, man. I think this is just a case of the Nuggets are simply not as good as the Lakers. I mean, they're searching pretty hard for a third option. MPJ gave him that. He only played 20 minutes total, and he had 5 fouls, so I think that kind of tells you a bit of the story there. Now, I don't think Will Barton would be the difference between them winning or losing the series or anything, but when you do look at the box score tonight for the Nuggets, it's clear that they really could have used Barton. I mean, besides Jokic and Murray doing their thing, the only other dude was MPJ with 15 points. Everybody else didn't do too much, and Barton just being that other guy who could do a little bit off the dribble. That would have been nice for him, but yeah, man. Anthony Davis, AD. Did they give up too much for him? No. Did I say that they gave up too much for him when they traded for him? I think I may have, but I disagree with my past self, if so. So it was a good game. Like and subscribe if you got this far. Unless you don't want to, that's fine. And that's it.